Okay, Sujiso. In this first part, I'd like to ask you some questions about yourself. Let's talk about neighbors. Do you know your neighbors?
Yes, I do know some of my neighbors, though perhaps not all of them very well. In the building where I live, I've certainly met the people on my floor, and a few others in passing. We usually exchange polite greetings, like a hello or a nod, when we see each other in the hallway or by the elevator. With a couple of them, I've had slightly longer, friendly conversations.
How often do you see your neighbors?
I see them fairly regularly, I suppose, given that we live in the same building. It's quite common to bump into them in the common areas, like the lobby, the elevator, or perhaps if there's a shared laundry facility. It's not usually a planned meeting, more like a casual encounter. Sometimes it might be several times a week, other times just once or twice.
What kind of relationship do you have with your neighbors?
I would describe my relationship with my neighbors as generally friendly and respectful, but perhaps not overly close or intimate. We maintain a good neighborly distance, I think. We are polite to each other, might help with a small thing like holding a door, or perhaps accept a package if someone isn't home. It's a civil and pleasant coexistence, rather than a deep friendship for the most part.
In your opinion, what are the qualities of a good neighbor?
That's an important question. I think a good neighbor is, first and foremost, respectful of others' space and peace. This means being mindful of noise levels, especially at night, and generally not causing disturbances. Another key quality is being considerate, perhaps letting someone know if you're having a party or being understanding if their child is occasionally noisy. Being friendly but not intrusive is also good. A polite greeting goes a long way, but respecting privacy is equally important. And finally, I think being helpful in small ways when needed, like keeping an eye on someone's place if they're away, or offering a hand with something, contributes to a good neighborly spirit.
Do you think it's important for neighbors to help each other?
Yes, I do think it's quite important, within reason, of course. Having neighbors who are willing to help each other creates a stronger sense of community and security. Simple acts of kindness, like collecting mail for someone on holiday, offering assistance if someone is struggling with groceries, or even just being there in an emergency situation, can make a big difference. It fosters a more supportive and pleasant living environment for everyone. It doesn't mean you have to be best friends, but a basic level of mutual support is definitely beneficial.
Part 2. Individual long-term. All right, now I'm going to give you a topic, and I'd like you to talk about it for 1 to 2 minutes. Before you talk, you'll have 1 minute to think about what you're going to say. You can make some notes if you wish. Do you understand?
Yes, I understand perfectly.
Here's your card, and here's some paper and a pencil. All right? Remember, you have 1 to 2 minutes for this, so don't worry if I stop you. I'll tell you when the time is up. Can you start speaking now, please?
Okay, so I'd like to describe a time when I was able to help one of my neighbors. This happened about 6 months ago, during a particularly cold spell in the winter. The neighbor was an elderly lady who lived on the floor below me. Her name was Mrs. Davies. I knew her slightly from seeing her around, and she always had a kind smile. She lived alone and seemed quite independent, but I knew she was getting on in years. One evening, I was coming home and I noticed her struggling a bit outside her door. She was trying to carry a few rather heavy-looking shopping bags and also fumbling with her keys. The bags looked like they were full of groceries. It was clear she was finding it a bit difficult. So I immediately went over and asked if she needed a hand. She seemed a little surprised, but also relieved. I helped her by taking the heaviest bags from her. Then, once she managed to unlock her door, I carried the bags inside and put them on her kitchen counter for her. It wasn't a huge task, really, just a few minutes of my time. We had a brief, pleasant chat while I was there. She thanked me very kindly and told me a little about how she found shopping a bit more tiring these days. It was lovely. In terms of how I felt about helping her, I felt really good, actually. It was a simple act, but it made me happy to know I could make things a little easier for her, even in a small way. It also made me feel more connected to my community, like I was being a good neighbor. Mrs. Davies was so appreciative, and her gratitude was very genuine, which was lovely. It reinforced my belief that small acts of kindness can really matter and can brighten someone's day as well as your own. It was a simple, positive experience.
Thank you. That's a nice story.
Thank you.
Part 3, two-way discussion. We've been talking about a time you helped a neighbor. Now I'd like to ask you some more general questions related to neighbors and community. In what ways can having good neighbors improve people's lives?
Having good neighbors can improve people's lives in quite a few significant ways, I believe. Firstly, it can create a much stronger sense of safety and security. Knowing you have trustworthy people nearby who might look out for your home when you're away or who you could turn to in an emergency is very reassuring. Secondly, good neighbors can contribute to a more pleasant and friendly living environment. Simple, friendly greetings, a willingness to help each other with small things, or even just a general atmosphere of respect can reduce stress and make daily life more enjoyable. It can also combat feelings of loneliness or isolation, especially for people who live alone or are new to an area. Having someone to chat with occasionally, even briefly, can make a big difference. And finally, a good neighborhood often fosters a stronger sense of community, where people feel connected and more willing to participate in local activities or support local initiatives, which benefits everyone.
Do you think the nature of relationships between neighbors has changed in recent years compared to the past?
Yes, I do think it has changed in some noticeable ways. In the past, perhaps in smaller towns or more established communities, neighbors often knew each other much better. There might have been more spontaneous socializing, children playing together in the streets, and a greater reliance on each other for support, because communities were often more self-contained. Nowadays, lifestyles are often much busier and more individualistic. People move more frequently for work or other reasons, so there's less time to build those deep, long-term connections with neighbors. Also, technology, while connecting us globally, might sometimes mean we interact less with those immediately around us. So, while friendly relationships still exist, the level of closeness and interdependence might be less common now than it was, say, 50 years ago, especially in larger urban areas.
What are some of the common problems that can arise between neighbors?
Unfortunately, several common problems can sometimes arise between neighbors. Noise is probably one of the most frequent issues. Things like loud music, barking dogs, noisy parties, or even just heavy footsteps from an apartment above can cause a lot of friction. Disputes over property boundaries or shared spaces, like fences or driveways, can also lead to disagreements. Issues related to parking are another common source of conflict, especially in areas where parking is limited. Sometimes, differences in lifestyle or standards of property maintenance, like an untidy garden, can cause annoyance. And occasionally, just a general lack of consideration or poor communication can escalate small misunderstandings into bigger problems.
How important is it for neighbors to respect each other's privacy?
Oh, it's extremely important, absolutely fundamental for a good neighborly relationship. Everyone has a right to their own private space and to live their life without feeling constantly watched or interfered with. Respecting privacy means not being overly inquisitive about a neighbor's personal life, not gossiping, and not intruding on their property or their quiet enjoyment of their home. While being friendly and approachable, there's a clear line that shouldn't be crossed. If neighbors don't respect each other's privacy, it can lead to feelings of discomfort, resentment, and can quickly sour the atmosphere in a neighborhood. It's all about finding that balance between being neighborly and respecting personal boundaries.
Thank you very much. That is the end of the speaking test.
Thank you.